You're listening to the Gettin' Salty Experience podcast.
And we are back, and away we go. Welcome back, Leatherhead Nation. Welcome back to the Gettin' Salty Experience podcast. It's the only one that brings the Firehouse Kitchen table to you. My boy Ruffy here. My boy Petey Pete's here.
Shalom.
It's the trio.
Shalom.
Yep. It's like the Fab Four -1. We're like a trio. Yep.
There's a lot of trios out there, like Nirvana. You know, we're like the Nirvana of the fire world.
Oh, okay. Yeah. We're the trio. Or the Whack Pack, maybe. You know. Be the Whack Pack. Yep.
How about a Fresca?
Oh.
Danny.
That's what I'm drinking tonight, a little Fresca.
Miss it, Noonan. Miss it.
I didn't even know you had that one.
Oh, I just pulled it out of nowhere, man.
Guess who I played golf with today?
Who?
Did I tell you? I sent you the picture.
You sent me the picture. Yep. Jeff Cool, who's really cool.
And Gene Stolowski.
Oh, really?
Slapping it around up in Rockland.
How'd you do?
Yeah, we did all right. Back nine was better than the front.
I thought Jeff Cool lived down in like somewhere.
That's what I thought too. He lives here, but then he goes down to South Carolina for a couple months at a time, I guess, to play golf and stuff like that.
When he wants
his son played too. His son's getting on the job.
When he wants to beat up Johnny Walters, he goes down to South Carolina.
That was the first thing we did. We took a picture with the finger, and we sent it.
Oh, that's the one you sent to me?
Yeah, we sent it to W first. Then we said, let's send it to Coops too.
Nice.
Oh, thank you. Yep. I can't tell you what I wrote him back because I might insult him.
Just use different vowel, different consonants.
Yeah? Nah.
Yeah. Nah.
Nope.
Better not.
Better not. I don't want to get yelled at again. Peter's always yelling at me.
Sometimes I got to straighten you out. That's all there is to it.
Sometimes. We got a real good guy on tonight, man. Not only is he a 40-year veteran at a job, busy places, back on the early 70s, before most of you hairbags were born, and a gentleman as well. Yeah.
And he was our chief.
And he was our chief.
Yeah.
And he knew some famous alumnus of the show.
No, that he did.
Oh, yeah.
No, he reminds me a little bit, Roof. He reminds me of the guy we have, the picture of the chief. Doesn't he look like the chief picture? The hair-shaking picture of the chief?
What?
No.
Not connecting tonight. It's
all
not.
Right,
you're not.
Okay. Well, good night, everybody. Have a good night. Thanks for coming on. Appreciate it.
Oh man!
Yeah.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
Oh, hold on a sec. Here it is.
Yeah.
Didn't he look like? Doesn't he? No.
Okay.
Well,
moving right along.
Let's do our quick little mini pay the bills tonight, and then we can get on with our storyteller because he is a storyteller. We have to guide the chief tonight. He told us to, number one, but number two, like even just going over the pictures, I'm like, Chief, don't tell us stories. Chief, don't tell. Chief, don't tell. So we got to get him in here because he's raring to go. All right, so let's get through this.
Just came in the chat. Cheese.
Didn't we lock you in a dumpster?
Yeah, I got out.
All right, here we go. All right. Quickly, guys, gettinsaltyapparel.com. If you like cool hats like this or tumblers like that or T-shirts like the one that Mr. Kubler is wearing right there. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. We have the coolest firefighter apparel and accessories in the game. So if you want to support the show, support us at gettinsaltyapparel.com. Also, guys, in the super chat tonight, if you absolutely have a question you need to ask, you guys are really, truly our number one sponsors. So hit us up in the super chat. It's always nice to get anything, a shekel, multiple shekels, half a shekel, whatever you got, or not. It's fine. It's all good. If you guys can support us and support the show, please do. Also, guys, the Super Thanks is kind of like a monthly subscription service. If you so choose to do. It's kind of like the Patreon of YouTube, if you will. So if you want to join us there at the Super Thanks, please do. All that stuff, guys, keeps the show rocking and rolling. But in any case, that's enough of the ads for the show. You guys want to get this guy in here or what?
Yeah, quickly though, before in the next few weeks, we're going to be playing Where in the Wide World of Sports is Louis Refrano, because he will be traveling around the country shooting defenseless animals. So you'll never know when we turn on the show who's going to be there. I'll just give you a little hint. Our very young friend MC will be sitting in one night for Louis.
That's right.
Yep, I believe it's the show. I haven't told him yet. We're going to do a show on the Bell Club on November 10th. I'm not sure, but we'll find out what state Louis is in. Maybe he'll check in remote and get yelled at in the hallway while.
Yeah. He'll be in a hallway and a nice Asian lady will yell at him.
Yeah.
Karen. All right.
Don't have that one anymore, I don't think.
Well, it's not. I know it's somewhere in here. It's not at my I have like the core ones on this board, and then the other ones elsewhere. So, here we go. Gosh, I hate this one.
Wow, what?
I hate it.
You know what it sounds like?
Dick.
It sounds like.
Yeah,
Karen.
There it is.
Karen.
All right, let's get this guy in here, man.
Yes, let's bring him in.
Is the guy sleeping back there?
No, he's very much alive and well. I can see him.
All right, good.
All right, here we go.
Chief Jon Malkin. There he is.
Look at him.
What?
Hey guys.
I think you might have better curtains than you, Lou. That's what I'm saying. I like the curtains.
The best was in the pre-show. Petey was going through, the timeline and everything, and all of a sudden you hear a little birdie like chirping in the background. Pete's like, Chief, is that a bird? He's like, oh yeah, that's my bird right over here. He speaks 12 languages. What'd you say? 12 languages, Chief?
12 languages. Yes. He does a lot of talking. My wife teaches him to say all kinds of good things.
Good things, or she don't teach the naughty words, right?
No naughty words. I try to teach him the naughty words, and somehow he blows me off. He won't pick up on the naughty words.
Do you know that Louis is a big bird watcher? Pete, did you know that?
No.
Yes, he's seen a cockatoo. All right, people. All right.
Very quickly, guys. You know the deal. Let's
Pete.
get patriotic first and foremost. You guys know the deal. Ladies and gentlemen, the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Amen, brother. Amen. Also, a quick reminder, Chief Kleehouse sent me a reminder that either yesterday or one day this week is the anniversary of the Maspeth fire. We lost those guys when the wall came down in Maspeth. So, as always, prayers for
it was yesterday. I have it on my calendar, 26th.
26th, yesterday.
You know what?
All right.
I just realized that we didn't come up with a word of the day for the day. So
my goodness.
I just threw one up. So here we go. I'm just going to free bag it right now.
Cockatoo.
You know it, ladies and gentlemen. The word of the day is cockatoo.
I fucking know that, Petey, man. I know that, Petey.
I was scrambling just now. I was like, oh my God, word of the day, cockatoo.
There we go.
All right.
All right, we have a very long, distinguished career here, so we got to dive right in. Before we get into the career, Chief, give us a little background. When you were just a wee lad, where did you grow up, and what made you want to be a fireman?
What made me want to be a fireman? I lived in Brooklyn on the corner of Rogers and Linden Boulevard. And on Rogers Avenue, down to the left is 249 and 113. Down to the right is 257 and is 150. Holy cow, 157 and 255.
255, yeah.
And somehow when a box would be transmitted, I'd hear sirens. I'd open up my window and I could see them coming. Somehow they'd always meet on my corner and turn left or right on Linden Boulevard. And in those days, everything was open. The cab, the tiller, everything was open. They rode out in the street basically, and the guys were holding on a step. On the engine, they were on the back step. And it looked pretty exciting to me, you know. So at like 7, 8, 9 years old, I kind of got interested in it, and I paid more attention. and rode my bike around the neighborhood and followed them whenever I could. And I said to myself, this looks good, this looks very interesting. Little did I know, that it could be much more intricate than stretching a line and shooting a little water. But the interest didn't wane, and I went through my teen years aspiring, even though I was in college for a while studying a business. But then the test was coming in 1968 test was coming, and I was drafted into the Army in 66, and I just missed the test because they sent me to South Korea. So I had to wait, and took the test in 71. I called the personnel department and I asked them, "Hey, I'm going to miss the test. What the heck?" And they said, "You'll take the next one." It didn't mean anything to them, of course, So I took 71, and I was on in the first class of 73, and we were off to the races. I thought it was the best thing.
How long were you over there in Korea?
I was in Korea about 7 months, but I was a draftee during Vietnam. And they sent me to South Korea. So I actually ran out of time. The stint is 13 months over there, but I ran out of Army time. I had finished my 2 years. So they discharged me, and I came home. And then I waited for the next test. I went to college for a while, waited for the next test, and the rest is history.
And you aced it. The rest is history.
Chief, did you have anybody on the that you knew that was on the job prior?
I'm the first in my family. I have two brothers, and they wanted nothing at all to do with fire or fire department. And one of my brothers is a photographer by trade, and I tried to talk him into taking the test. I said, you wind up in the photo unit, and it's a good job, and you'll do nothing but take pictures. He said, "I'm not going into any fires. Leave me alone." And listen, he did well, started his own business, and he's retired now, and he did good. He did very well.
I got to say, too, before we even get any further, every time, I would run into the chief in the bank by me. I think you live, the next town over, or you live Rockville?
I'm in Rockville Center.
Yeah. Right. And he just exudes a love for the job. Even when he was on the job, you talk to him. Always, and my brother tells me all the time, a job's going on in Queens, just on the pictures. Hey, this job's going on right now in Queens. So you can't find a guy who loves the job more than this gentleman right here.
Yeah, we should stop and preface all this by saying that your brother and me were mutual partners for 10 years, so we know each other quite well. And there's a buff that sends me pictures. I don't know how they do it. It's some kind of website. When there's a job someplace, people take pictures right away, and immediately. That's Steve, of course, brother Steve. People take pictures right away, and I get pictures of the fire like within a minute of the 1075, and then I pass them on to Steve and a few other guys.
That's the Citizens app, Chief. There's an app.
Citizens app.
Yeah, they take pictures for they could be right down the block, and then it goes to this app, and then everybody gets it.
Very good. Everybody gets them. Yeah.
So he still loves the job. Been out since 2012, and he still loves the job.
Hey, the fire radio. I had to shut the fire radio off to do this class. It's right here in the next room.
Does the wife tell you, "John, turn that thing off already"?
She's tired of it. She's tired of telling me to turn it off. As long as I don't put it up too loud, she doesn't say anything. I guess I wore it down,
There you go. Now she don't even hear it. It's like living next to the L station, right? You
to the
don't
bird.
even hear it anymore. Yeah.
You don't hear
next
it
to the
anymore,
bird.
yeah.
Next to the bird, right? Next to the cockatoo, Pete.
Hey!
Hey! Oh!
The cockatoo.
All right, so Proby school starts in March of 73 to May of 73.
Right.
Was that still... Oh, look at that guy. Look at the sideburns on that guy.
Sideburns were in then. That's my Proby graduation day. A friend of mine took a couple of pictures, and that's me in May of 73 getting ready to see the world in the fire department.
Wow, look at that.
How about that?
Now, was it that? When did it leave Ward's Island, Roof? When was it?
It was
in the early 70s.
Welfare Island under the 59th Street Bridge.
Oh, Welfare Island, right.
Welfare Island.
Yeah,
Wow, and
Roosevelt
then-
down, and then they switched in the early 70s to where it is
Yeah.
to Randall's.
To Randall's, yeah.
Wow, look at that guy.
Yeah.
There's another.
Nice.
Proby 271.
Okay, so
Mhm.
how do you wind up in engine 271? You get there in 5 of 73.
Yeah. So I thought I had a hook, to go to a real slashing outfit, and I had it in mind. But somehow I go to 271. That's very nice. And the captain is McGoldrick, and Eddie McDonald is the lieutenant there, a friend of mine, even to this day. And the guys are great. It's a double house. 124 is in, and Battalion 28 is in with us. And in those days, Bushwick was really rocking and
Burning.
rolling. And 124 in the battalion went down into Bushwick, but the engine got cut off by other engines. So the engine would have 4 runs on the night tour, and the battalion in the truck would have 20 runs on the night tour and work. So me being a kind of a buff and wanting to learn about fire, it was eating on me, and I wanted to, do some fire duty and see what it was like and learn. So I stayed 10 months. The guys were great and everything. And the first funny story, there was a lieutenant in the truck, and they were hot shots, and they're still a really busy company. And this one lieutenant, he sort of had an attitude about the engine. You're slow engine. He kind of looked down. So anyhow, in those days, we had the old gear. We didn't have bunker gear, and we had roll down boots, and the truck never rolled their boots up, so they were always down. So this lieutenant would always, say something about the engine. So anyhow, he had his attitude. So anyhow, we had a mattress fire across the street, and they gave me the nozzle. I think it was the booster line. And it was zero visibility in there. And I was on my hands and knees with my mask on, and I'm putting out the mattress fire. All I see is orange and smoke, can't see an inch inside the mask. And all of a sudden I hear a lot of screaming, and it's this lieutenant. He's standing right there, and I gave him about 3 gallons of water in his boots. I think I couldn't. It was an accident. I swear, guys. I swear.
Oh, sure it was.
It was
I love those accidents.
We couldn't live that down for a while, but it was good work in there. In the truck was George Iser as a lieutenant and Pete Gansey, super guys. It was a super company. The battalion was in quarters, and they, like I say, they were them in the truck went all the way to Moffett Street in those days, and that's the far end of Bushwick, if you're familiar with it. So they were really getting some work and a lot of runs.
Was Patty Lee there, Chief?
What's that?
Patty Lee. Was Patty Lee?
Patty Lee was. I remember the name. When was Patty? Yeah, I think he was there then too. At some point, maybe not in the beginning, but he was. Anyhow, this picture here is one of my first jobs. Somebody took a picture on, I think it was on Bushwick Avenue. It was the 3rd alarm, and I'm wearing the old steel mask, and I have a story about them. When we carried those masks, they were very heavy and they were big, and we carried them in black suitcases. They were very heavy. They weren't mounted in jump seats. So the rig on the engine had jump seats, but no masks in the jump seat. The masks were in the compartment. And the guys rode either in the jump seats or on the back step. Now, it was 271 was a fairly non-active company, a good company, but they didn't do a lot of work. And their policy was, if they got a job, some of the senior guys had the nozzle. So I wasn't getting the nozzle at all. So I'm looking at this picture and I'm saying, how can I get the nozzle? So I'm always the control man. So whenever we got a job, I would jump off the rig and I would grab a mask and put it on as fast as I could. And then I would go on the line and do my control man or my doorman duties. And we take the line in the hallway, and the other guys had a company policy. They wouldn't take masks if we were first due. So I would wait in the hallway, flake out the line and do my thing until I heard inside the room a fire. until I heard, and see, two guys run out, and then I would go in and I would have the nozzle every time, so it worked out good, but it worked out to my benefit. But anyhow,
You had a plan. You had a plan.
I had
Always
a
have a
plan.
plan.
I started
And
to
he had
have a
some
plan.
hair. Look at that hair.
Yeah, that's when I had hair. Now it's all gone now, but that's
Yeah, you and me both.
that's from working in a few crazy places. So in the battalion, was Chief Borst, Pat Curley, Scalone, Bowden, Myers, great chiefs. And I learned early on that if you're interested in the job, the kitchen with a chief is Fire College 101. So when the chief would be in the kitchen having coffee, man, it was my turn to debrief them, about the last job. And they would love to talk about, what happened and so, and you could just soak it up, I mean, it was like learning terrific, so that was 271, great company, but I was looking for more. So in the spring of the next year, to 1974,
April of 74. Yep.
Yeah, I moved over to 277, the next engine over on Knickerbocker Avenue, and they're in with 112, and they're kind of in the middle of the mix over there in the heyday, and they're doing work, and it was a pleasure to go there, and I was in awe, and trying to learn and trying to fit in, and Bushwick, for the most part, was burning, and it was all row frames. 90% of Bushwick was row frames, 3-story frames, and it's all made of wood. So, and they all have common cocklofts. They were built in big rows, and when the fire gets in the cockloft, 4, 5, 6 buildings is not unusual.
It's yummy.
I'm going to tell you, if we'd lose rows if there wasn't a street at the end of the row, we'd be down by Bay Ridge now, State Fighting, one of those
He ain't
fires.
lying.
We'd still be trying to stop it at the corner, So it's a good thing.
That's funny.
How long you there before you catch your first job, Chief? In 277.
277. I can't remember the first job in 277, but I had really good officers. Vic Vitale was my lieutenant, Pete Troiano and Harry White, and they took me under their wing, and they really took the time to show. And I did a lot of learning, and we had kick-ass fires, and I was really happy there. 112 was the truck. Excuse me, and they were all excellent. And I have to shout out to Ronnie Caratu. And if you work on that side of Brooklyn, Ronnie Caratu was the man for like 30 years in 112. He was a fireman the day I walked in the door, and we were friends. And he came back years later as a lieutenant in 112. He came back years later as the captain in 112.
Looking for his bike.
And he really liked it. So Bushwick was burning, and it was a crazy neighborhood. And in those days, there were no spray caps for the hydrants. And in the summertime, it was not unusual for people to come out and open up the hydrant for the kids. And the kids would dance and dance in the water and have
use a coffee can, right? They use a coffee can?
Coffee can to shoot the water, direct the water and stuff. And the problem was that every hydrant in Brooklyn almost was open at the same time on a 90-degree day. Oof. And of course, that did something to like water pressure and the ability to fight fires. So there came a day when we, ironically, 277 and 112 were in Heckscher Park on their company picnic. And right down the block from 277's quarters is a vacant 5-story factory, heavy timber factory, wide open, full of garbage. And we're in Heckscher Park, and we hear on the radio, there's a 10-alarm fire on Knickerbocker Avenue. So some kids got in, and they lit it up. And there's a set of pictures of this thing getting going. And getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Across the street from this building that's roaring now is a 3-story frame. And the radiant heat, in one of the pictures, you could actually see the 3-story frame just
Smoking.
ignite. Three
Yeah,
stories
yeah.
building just ignite in total fire.
Chief, that was 77, right?
77 is an article in
Those are the
WNYF.
pictures. My
Bushwick is
father,
burned.
my father took those pictures with a
Oh,
with a
your fa-
110
I heard.
pocket
Yeah,
camera. Yep.
Yeah, great pictures. It didn't help that every hydrant in the neighborhood was open because it was like a 95-degree day, so getting water was a problem. In those pictures, you see 124 took their standard position with the tower ladder when they first got there, and the radiant heat forced everybody a block away shortly after, and the rig pretty much burned up in its
melted the windshield.
melted the windshield, took the paint off the side. I think the article says that the embers spread to like 40-something buildings in
shit, I
total
didn't know that.
because the embers were flying over and landing on roofs, things like that. So what we call this brand patrol got a workout that day. That was one story. Another story, it was a very active neighborhood. And outside our quarters, we had a dumpster that had a flat top. And when you wanted to take a break, we would hang out in front of Nick and sit on the dumpster and watch the world go by. So I'm sitting there one day, and there's a guy coming down the block from the neighborhood. I don't know him. And as he's getting near the firehouse, he goes across the street, and he's standing there, and he's looking at us. And you don't make eye contact with people in the neighborhood if you can avoid it, because it just sort of led to problems. In those days, if you got burned out, the battalion had these slips of paper, and you give it to people that got burned out, and it would tell them how to call the Red Cross, because the Red Cross would come and relocate them. So anyhow, the guy's standing across the street for a good 10 minutes, and I see him over there, and he's looking. So here he comes, and I see him coming, and I'm looking down, and he comes walking right up to me, and he's mumbling something about a fire. So I said, when was the fire? You want a Red Cross slip? And we're going back and forth, and he says, no, I don't want a Red Cross slip. So I said, well, when was the fire? And he says, it's now. So I said, it's now? What are you talking about? She says, oh, yeah, there's a fire in a building on Linden Street. Now, he knew that, and he's standing across the street for 10 minutes. So I turn the companies out, and we go, and there's a fire in a building on Linden Street. It goes along with the tempo of the people, you know. I mean, it wasn't enough to call the fire department. He was going to, I guess,
He took a stroll.
He was taking a stroll. Yeah, he was waiting.
Like 3 rooms in the back on the left.
Yeah.
I left the gasoline can outside so you'd find it.
Yeah, I got a story about that too.
Before we do that, Chief, 630, 75 to 76, you get laid off, right?
Yeah,
So,
the city went into financial difficulties coming into June of 75. And Abe Beam was the mayor at the time, and he had been the comptroller, the money man for the city. So anyhow, the city is at not enough money, and they don't know what they're going to do, and there's talk about layoffs. So ironically, me and my wife had just purchased the house in February, the first house. We had 2 cars, a new baby, a mortgage, and I'm a fireman, and with no time on the job, a year and a half. So the phone rings. I was out one night. The phone rings, and it's Lieutenant Vitale, and he tells my wife, this is like the 28th of June. He says, a bunch of pink slips just came, and John's got a pink slip as of July 1st. He's out of here. You know, all these guys are out of here. I don't know what to tell you. So like, we couldn't believe it. You know, I just, was incredulous and heartbroken and everything. I didn't know exactly what we were going to do. And on July 1st, I had no job, you know, and 10 of us from Knickerbocker Avenue, all young guys, were all out. So I stayed home for like 3 weeks, and And in the fourth week, the mortgage was coming due, and my wife says to me, "Yeah, maybe you should think about like something else. The mortgage is due next week." So I started hitting the pavement, and I found out when you go for a job, they say, "Well, where'd you work before?" And I told them I'm a fireman. I couldn't lie, and I'm laid off. And their first question was, "Well, when they call you back, what are you going to do?" And they
You'll
knew
never
I
get a
wasn't going to
job.
stay
Yeah,
working over there, So I went on the wait list. They would all tell me, "Well, we'll call you." So it was hard to get any job at all. And we
Some
muddled
guys
through.
drove a bus, didn't they,
Yeah,
Chief? Some
I'm
guy.
coming to that. Yeah.
Oh, all right.
So I struggled along, and I got a menial job, and I worked the job for a while, and it was very difficult. The fire department was out there, and then like 6 months into, 2 weeks into it, a couple of guys got hired back because they were this or that, and then 6 months into it, city got some federal money, but I didn't qualify because it was only city resident. It was just a mishmash. So anyhow, 10 months into it, in April of 76, the union calls us all in, the guys laid off, and says, "We got good news for you. Right now, we're getting you good, steady paying jobs with MABSTOA, the surface transit in the Bronx, driving buses in Manhattan or the Bronx. Good, steady job, benefits, everything." I don't know if there was even one laid off guy that didn't take the job. So the next thing you know, we're sworn in as bus drivers, and I'm up in the Bronx, and I don't know how to drive a bus, which they take care of. And for 2 weeks, you learn how to drive the bus. And then for about 2 weeks, you go out each day on a different route out of a certain garage. You're assigned to a garage. My garage was 218th Street and Broadway, and it covered a large portion of the Bronx and Upper Manhattan. And you go one day with a driver on a route, and you write down, start here, make a left, make a right, make a left, make a right. And then the next day, you're on a different route. And I had this little pad, and I'm saying, if you're on this route, make lefts and rights. And it's crazy because a couple of routes run together. So you really got to remember where to turn off. You don't want to make a wrong turn and take the people, down the wrong street. And, so it's crazy. So anyhow, it was a great job. I liked the job. It was steady. Nobody bothered you. So I had the job, and I was up in the Bronx driving the bus. And a lot of guys had it, like I say, were all firemen. And then like August 15th in 76, I had been laid off for almost 14 months. And the fire department calls me back and called a bunch of us back. Well, nobody had, the bus driver was so good, nobody had ever resigned from the job. And when we went to the office, they didn't know how to let us resign from the job, but they figured it out. We went back to the fire department, and I got sworn in again, and they put me in engine 211 by the Navy Yard. A great place to work, a little quiet. 111 is a tower ladder in quarters. And I have, let me see here. Richie D. Padova, Donald Thorson, and Stanley Wagner are my lieutenants in 211. Great guys, knowledgeable guys, good students. They encouraged the heck out of me. And one of them gave me my first 8-week study schedule. And I remember Richie D. Padova, we had a little job and teaching me some things about hose line operations. And I throw a shout out to him. Thanks. So anyhow, I'm in 211, and it's nice. It's a little quiet up there. And I have a recollection. The winter in at the end of 76 was some really bitter weather. And in the middle of that bitter weather, there was a fire in Field Brothers Department Store. Ever hear of it? I think it was a WWF. Field Brothers Department Store was a clothing store in like Fulton Street in downtown Brooklyn. And it's, I think, a third alarm. And the building collapses, and there's shoppers in the building. And they're missing at the end of the day. their families are calling up, and we have reason to believe that they were in the building. So they put the fire out, but now, of course, we're not going to leave it, thinking that there's people in the building. The procedure is to stay there 24 hours a day and to dig out the building right down to the foundation, broom clean. So they have 3-hour shifts. The daytime, they had more of an assignment there. But at night, overnight, it was an engine, a tower ladder, and maybe a chief. So I remember 119 going out for like a 3-hour stint in the middle of the night. And I remember the bay doors on 119's quarters, they were, the wind was blowing against those doors. And I said, boy, oh boy, to be in a tower ladder right now, holy cow.
I got to get the hell out of here.
You got to get the heck out of here. So I stayed in 211 from August of 76, and I wanted to go back to Bushwick and do more fire duty and rejoin the guys over there, even though the guys in 211 and 119 were great guys and they were good companies. So I put the paper in and I spoke to whoever I could spoke to, and around February of 77, I was back. I stayed in 277, going to fires, learning. And like I say, I had the 8-week schedule at that point. Fire Tech opened up, and I got acclimated with Fire Tech and started going. And I aced the 81 lieutenant's test, and I'm in the first promotion class in 82. Let me preface the next remarks by saying, and maybe people have heard this, there's about 6 fire departments in the New York City Fire Department. What they do in Bushwick, they're not doing in the Bronx because it's different. Right. It's a building. Or Harlem. What they do in Midtown Manhattan, they're not doing in Staten Island. Everybody gets that. These are different jobs. We all read the same books, but the work is totally different. So being career-oriented and promotion-oriented, and coming from a row frame area, I had my pick, and I wanted to go to a busy place. So I called whoever I knew, and I wound up assigned to the 18th Battalion in the Bronx, and I want to do H-type buildings. So I'm covering in all the companies in the 7th Division, and I'm learning. And also I'm doing one-night stands all over the city. The officer assignment desk calls you up and says, tomorrow you're going to Bay Ridge. Tomorrow you're going to 5-4 Battalion. And this is all good because you're seeing, the job. So anyhow, I covered for about a year and a half, and I tried to get a few companies, and more senior people took them. And there was an opening in 42 Engine for a lieutenant.
Wow.
42 Engine was a slashing company at the time. They were third in runs in the city and first in structural work. And that was for me. So I put in a paper, and it was a single engine house on Monroe Avenue in Tremont. And like I say, it was very busy. And
they were green.
Mostly H-type buildings, but they had taxpayers. They had a few other things. And I get 42 Engine, and it's
show that picture, Petey, with the engine.
I got you.
Yeah,
the green machine.
The green machine, and I'm going to fires, and it's a slashing outfit. It really is. It's very good. A lot of learning. Great companies in all directions. The engines are great. The trucks couldn't be better. It was an honor to work there, and it was learning like you wouldn't believe. Everything was a learning experience, and we were doing it. My mutual partner was Roy Levesque, and he was there for some time, and excellent fire officers. Tom Fahey and Bobby Morris, who later became a captain of Rescue 1, all great guys. John Iavola, who's famous, Jimmy Healy were the captains while I was there, and Richie Mills.
Chief, so, how did you feel? How did you feel about when you first got there as lieutenant? How long did it take you to, if you remember, how to, get comfortable, or the guys make it easy for you because the guys
made it as hard? And I was warned about this. the guys, I say this with a smile, the guys made it as hard as they possibly could to initiate me, like they had a policy of breaking balls, okay? So they made it difficult as possible in various ways. And I guess in a way that's kind of good because you learn to be a manager and you learn to test the limits of your authority. And it was pretty challenging under certain conditions. So anyhow, this is one interesting neighborhood. The Cross Bronx Expressway is right down the street. You could get killed on the Cross Bronx like in any expressway in a heartbeat. We were down there often, and you really had to know what the procedures were for operating on a highway. And I wasn't in the company long, and we went to Clifford Place and Jerome Avenue right before Christmas. I think it was December 24th of the year I got there. It was a cold winter night. Clifford Place is 1 block off the Cross Bronx and Jerome Avenue. And I didn't see anything, and I made it a 9-2, but then we were going around the block, and I looked down onto the Cross Bronx, and you could see the tunnel that goes under the Grand Concourse, which is 8 lanes. So that tunnel is a big tunnel. The whole tunnel is on fire. There's fire coming out of that tunnel. And all I saw was the back of a tractor trailer on an angle. And I call a dispatcher and I tell him, 1075 the box. I got multiple vehicles, whatever, in the tunnel. So I tell the chauffeur, drive down the exit ramp, go across 3 lanes of traffic and stop by the median, which is just a cement post. I jump over the median and a man comes out of the tunnel on fire,
Shit.
on fire. So you remember the Little Rascals when Stymie sees something and he screams, that was me. Okay. That was me screaming.
Shit.
So I sit the man down, and I go back to the radio and I call for help. We put out the fire. It was about 8 vehicles on fire in the tunnel. And the point of that story is when you operate on a highway, anything could happen. Okay. So that was one of my first experiences. There were, ever hear of up and down apartments? It's written in the books. Various places, I'm not sure if it's federal money or what, but buildings are built under some standards, maybe not New York City standards. And there were certain buildings interspersed in the area up there that were high apartment houses, maybe 10, 12 stories. And there was only a hallway every 3rd floor. And you'd get down the hallway and there were 4 doors in an alcove. 2 of the doors were on that level, but the 3rd and 4th doors, one went up to an apartment. You went up to a half landing, you made a 180-degree turn and went up another half landing, and then you were in the apartment. And there were big picture windows in the apartment that failed and let the wind play havoc with us. But the real kicker is the other door was the down apartment. That went down a half a flight, and then you made a U-turn and you went down into the apartment. Well, if the fire was in that apartment, when you opened that, you had a roaring cellar fire. And when you started with your 2.5-inch line, because it was a standpipe building, you weren't hitting the fire. You were hitting down the half landing, and then you had to make the U-turn to go down into the apartment.
Yeah, which is tough to do with
So this is a really tough stretch. And I prayed I would never have it, one of these fires. But every once in a while, there was one. And I was working some tour in 46 engine, and we had 2000 Valentine. It was a down apartment one night, and we got the pulp beat out of us going down that staircase. We put the fire out, but that's a dangerous situation. Wherever other entities come in with building standards, you don't know what you're going to find, and we knew about what we would find here. It's just that the building was built in such a way that, it doesn't lend itself. It didn't lend itself to firefighting efficacies. So another story from 42 Engine. Roy Levesque is there. He's my mutual partner, and he's super experienced guy. And I look up to him, and I'm learning from him. And when we change tours, he's in the office and I exchange information with him. And I come to work one day and Roy is burned. Two of the firemen are burned. A couple of them are in the hospital, admitted to the hospital. And I said to myself, if Roy got burned and guys under him, I want to know what happened, you know? So eventually I caught up to Roy and he's telling me, I think it was a building on Sheridan or something. And it was the back of the building was on a hill and it overlooked like you're going west. And it was a wind-driven fire. And they opened the door in the hallway. And of course, you don't know the angle when you're up in the hallway and you stretch the line. You don't know if the windows are out, whatever. They open the door, heavy black smoke is coming out. They open the line, and now fire's coming out of the apartment door, and they're shooting the line in, and they're getting burned, and fire's still coming out. The more they shoot the line, fire is coming out. So they got burned in the hallway, and eventually, I guess they got relieved, whatever. But I wanted to know what happened. So I think he told me you were shooting into a hallway, and there was an archway, okay, that came down from the ceiling about 2 feet. And the fire was further in the apartment, and the windows were out, and so it was wind-driven. And the fire was rocking and rolling and blowing now toward them. But when they were shooting in and sweeping the ceiling, the archway was catching the water. It wasn't going anywhere near where the fire was. Go figure this. You don't know it in the fire. And they got toasted, you know. So everything was a learning experience, and
A lot different from those row frames, huh, Chief?
different from the row frames.
Yeah.
Yeah, different from the row frames. The neighborhood was super occupied. Everything was pretty much occupied. There were a few vacants around, and there were blocks, whole blocks with occupied H-type buildings. So parking is limited. It's on the street. And you come home from work at 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night. There's no parking. You could drive around for hours. So there were whole blocks with double parked cars. And when you drove into that block, two cars were on the hydrant. You could look down a long block and there wouldn't be a break for any hydrants. So it was hard to find a hydrant. And there'd be fire coming out, 2, 3 windows on one of these H's. And we would have to scramble. Even when you found the hydrant, it was a chore like hooking up. Otherwise, you had no water. So there were.
Chief, were most of those things, were most of the buildings vacant, or were they occupied?
No, most of them were occupied. So my answer was, after we hooked up and everything, how do you strike back? I mean, I could call the police, and my experience was they wouldn't come, and if they did, they'd write one ticket. So I learned how to write hydrant tickets. They were $50 a piece in those days. I could write one in less than a minute.
Nice.
And I would give out 6 or 8 a night when we were riding around. I would just give them out. Even just riding around, there'd be cars on every hydrant. And that's the only way we could strike back. And my guys used to yell at me, here he goes again with the, but that's all we could do, I mean, whatever.
If I could write tickets, I would have wrote them. They were a bitch to, they had the thing that went over it. You had to kind of figure it out.
Yeah, but if you sit with it and you sit with the instructions, you learn how to do it. 1 minute, I had the ticket. 1 minute, I had the ticket. And I could do 6 a night, 7 a night, whatever, And I don't know, once the Parking Violations Bureau had your license plate, yeah, you could sell the car, you could do this, you could do that. But for $50, when they won't re-register the car, I imagine that I was harassing these people to a degree. So I had a run, and the run was in the middle of the night, and there's a hill that comes down onto Webster Avenue, and we're first due, and I'm looking at taxpayers across the street, across on Webster Avenue, and I see flames like 6 feet above the roof at 3 o'clock in the morning. So nice. Somehow there's certain things that stick in your mind, even way back, like 1075s that you gave for a reason that, may not have been up to snuff or something like that. But I never gave a 1075 for something that I didn't think was a fire. Some of them didn't pan out. This is one of them. We get down, I give a 1075, the cavalry's coming and everything. I see fire like 6 feet above the roof of a taxpayer. and I'm looking around. We put up the portable ladder. The truck comes in, 27 truck. They're putting up ladders. And we get up on the roof, and there's a bum on the roof. There's a homeless guy, and he's got a burn barrel, and he's sitting there rubbing his hands. And there's fire, 6 feet above the roof. Hey, it is what it is, I turned into a block one. How about this? I turned into a Mount Hope Place, I think it was, and it was an H-type building, daytime, and fire was 4 feet out the fourth floor windows. Hey, that's a 1075 to me, right? Fire out the windows. We get up there, the kid lit the curtains on fire, and it was just the curtains. It was just an odor of smoke in the apartment, but I didn't know till I got up there. So, everybody has these moments, and they're funny, but they stick with you. I had hundreds of fires on 42 engine. I worked overtime in engine 75 on Christmas Eve. I forgot what year it was, maybe 85. John Iavola was in the truck, and he was working overtime. This is 75 engine and 33 truck on Jerome. Around 10 o'clock at night, we go out the door. I'll never forget this fire. We go out the door to a fire in a building reported just south of quarters. We go down Jerome Avenue a couple of blocks, and there's an indoor lumberyard on the left side as you go down. And there's white smoke coming. It's locked up tighter than a drum. It was a holiday night. It's locked up tighter than a drum. Has roll-down door for trucks to back in. It has a personnel door. So 33 truck gets there, and they're forcing the doors. And we stretch a line and everything. And they get in the personnel door, and they roll up the bay door. And it's a sprinklered building. It's an indoor lumberyard, and it's big. It's like 100 by 100. And it's loaded with everything in an indoor lumberyard. It has, insulation, plastics, all kinds of stuff. You ever been to a fire where the sprinklers are going off and it knocks down the fire and it's now churning? Sprinklers rarely put the fire out entirely.
It's torture.
They put out the top, and that's good. It holds it down. It lets us put the fire out. But this is a big building, and you had the common white smoke. I put my mask on. I couldn't see my hand in front of my face, but that's okay. It's cold white smoke. And if you ever did one of these fires, the carbon monoxide in that smoke is off the charts because it's incomplete combustion. It's still burning underneath. The sprinklers knocking it down. The whole place is full of white smoke, and we can't find the fire. And the sprinklers are going off. Sprinklers had been going off. They're going off. They're holding the fire down. And now when they open the bay door, I didn't know it. It's like a ramp that goes down a story. And that's like half full of water, but I didn't know it. So we're walking in that ramp with shining the light. It doesn't help. And now the water's getting deeper because that ramp is like full of water. It's got 3 feet of water in, and there's doors floating in the water. And now you're tripping over things and you're falling into the water. And that's pretty unpleasant with the mask on. You're getting submerged. Your boots are full of water. We can't find this fire. And we're doing the best we can. And we're running out of air. And maybe 30, 35 minutes into the fire, we still can't find it. And maybe people are taking
That's
hits
a long
or
time.
their masks are running out. It's a third alarm, and we can't find the fire. How about that? Our masks run out, and somehow, I'm not going to say we took hits or anything like that with the mask. I'm not allowed to say that, but we had taken, some of us had taken a little dose of the carbon monoxide smoke, and we were really sick when we came out of there. Several guys got taken to the hospital and were admitted immediately and stayed in the hospital for a week for carbon monoxide poisoning. I was on overtime. I didn't want to go sick. So anyhow, we finished the fire, and I felt that I could continue on, on duty for the rest of the tour. And here, ironically, we come out of the building, and I don't feel well, and we're there a while, and I'm looking at a building on the next block that's heavily involved in fire. It has nothing to do with this. It's a vacant, and we're looking, we're laughing. Yeah, there's another fire. Some other companies are coming. So we finished this fire, and it was nothing. It was a nickel's worth of fire. It was like a pallet of plastic insulation or something, but it was bad. So I go back to quarters, and the truck officer, Iavola, went sick on it, and they moved me into the truck for the rest of the tour, and they backfilled the engine. So I'm in 33 truck, and whoever companies came and did the vacant, they put the vacant out. And now, like 6 hours later, it's like 3 a.m, and it was a windy night, and the vacant's on again, that vacant around the corner. So we pull up, and we're first due, 33 truck. We put the bucket up. We're not going in the building. And we set up, we put some guys in the bucket, and the engine's feeding them. And we're working on this. And we're just kind of taking it easy, pouring water. And I hear on the handy-talkie, somebody asking me, hey, Lou, did you want a portable ladder? And I say, yeah, I didn't ask for a portable ladder. And he says, well, who's taking those portable ladders off the back of the truck? Some of the neighbors came, and they were stealing portable ladders right off the back of 33 truck. And
While it's operating.
While we're operating right there, So it gives you a kind of idea that some of the people had a sense of humor. So I told you that way. It was the Wild West. And at the time, 42 Engine was in the 5-6 Battalion, which is gone. And Billy Regan was my battalion chief, Pete Valenzano, nice man. And he was a self-fashioned foam expert. And at the time, there were no foam coordinators. We didn't have that whole program. And when there was a giant foam job, we winged it somehow, and they got foam from wherever. But they really didn't have they just had a few guys that would train. Well, Pete Valenzano was a really self-taught, I think, guy with foam. And he'd come to our quarters and for a drill, and he'd come in the kitchen and he'd start with the chalk, and he'd be talking about 3% foam and you need so many gallons. And the fireman would be like looking at the ceiling, and he was right. He was absolutely right. He was spot on. And I remember a day when he was working, and the Long Island pipeline, what the Long Island pipeline is? There's a series of pipelines that run from Staten Island, and they go through Brooklyn and Staten Island and into Queens. And there's two of them. They're 12-inch pipelines, and one carries gasoline, one carries jet fuel, and they go to the airports. And they're under 200 pounds per square inch of pressure to push this stuff along. Well, if they're buried, for the most part, and once in a while, there's a guy with a backhoe that doesn't know they're there and doesn't pay attention, and he gives one of them a scrape. Well, one day, Valenzano was working, and there was a leak, and there was a couple of 100 gallons of gasoline out in Staten Island. And we knew about it. And he was calling the dispatcher and saying, I'm the foam expert. You got to send me. And they wouldn't send him. He was so broken,
my God, I'm the foam expert.
He was trying to get there because he really knew what to do. And he was kind of a broken guy. Anyhow, in the division at the time was my friend Vince Dunn, who I think you had on the show a few times.
Vince Dunn.
Never heard of him.
Vince Dunn, you never heard of him. And
the GOAT.
Yeah, and some of the other guys, Harry Norham and John Toohey, and they treated us really well in 42 Engine. And when you grow up and you become a deputy, and you look at it from that angle, and you have really busy companies that do a lot of work, and you say, and they're down in a busy area, and you hang your hat on those companies. You come to realize, I'm glad to have those guys, because by the time you get there as the deputy, these guys are in there, trying to really kick some butt. So anyhow, 42 Engine was a great place to work. It was a place to learn about fire and learn about stretching lines. And I'll give you one last story about 42 Engine. I get promoted, and the very next tour, there's a lieutenant that took my place, Finn, I forgot his first name, a really good guy. So he took my place, and it's night tour. I'm out of there, and they're backing into quarters, and there's cars coming down the block, and they stop the cars, and the firemen have some words with the guy driving the first car, and he wants to go. He wants to go over the sidewalk, whatever. So the firemen have some words with him, and one thing leads to another. I don't know exactly what happened, but the guy driving the car was ticked off by the time the rig was in quarters. So they had some words. I think he said he's going to come back with a gun, or he's going to kill the fire, whatever. So it's a hot summer night, and they they had the door open, and they made some phone calls over the threat. And the battalion and the division were there at the house watch desk taking marks in the book. And the company is there, and the guys who are around. I don't know if they're all out in the front. The rig is there. And here comes the guy down the block with his pistol. Okay?
No way.
And they see him coming down the block with the pistol. And somebody says, here he comes, you know. The guy stands in front without saying a word, and he's pegging shots into the firehouse. And he takes out the windshield on the rig. He takes out, you know, the house watch desk, and the
No
guys and the
fucking
chiefs
way.
are cowering, you know, under the chair at the house watch desk. And
Of course.
this guy's firing. Now I remember the deputy. He was a real cool guy, and I will tell you his name, but he was really cool. Wasn't one that I mentioned already, but it was real cool. And the guy fires 6 shots into the house, and he runs away. And one of the chiefs, it might have been the deputy, as I'm told, says, he's out of bullets. Let's get him. So now they're chasing this guy down the block. And he's
No
trying
way.
to reload, baby, and he's running for his life. And all the firemen are chasing this guy. But it's crazy.
He's out of bullets. Let's go.
But fortunately, they didn't catch him. And
That's crazy.
You mean unfortunately they should have caught him.
yeah, they should have caught him. Anyhow, they gave it to the marshals. I'm not sure what happened with that. Anyhow,
never came back?
Chief, I gotta ask you. Back in those times, right? Like in the crazy
there
days,
you go, Petey.
was it possible for a firehouse to have their own gun, like if someone was a legal possessor or carrier, for their own safety on the on site?
I think it's against regs to have a gun in the firehouse.
You're not allowed to have a firearm in the firehouse, and that was a standard then. You could do what you want in your own car. I mean, if you have a hunting rifle or whatever, you could do what you want. You can't just bring it into the firehouse. So
Gotcha.
yeah. So anyhow, I did some studying mostly at home because you couldn't do it in 42 engine, and there was a captain's test coming in I don't
86?
know, 86 was the captain's test. So
He got promoted in 87. So
yeah. So I studied, and I did really well on the captain's test. And in the summer of 87, I wanted to go to another fire department. So I called my weight, and I'm in Division 3, Battalion 7, assigned to Battalion 7. And now it's another world. It's high rises, it's Class E's, it's fireman service elevators, it's subways. There's
Triple subcellars.
What's that?
Triple subcellars.
Triple subcellars. Forget it, man. There's
Louis loves them.
congestion. You can't get through. There's no way to go cross town, even in the especially in the daytime. The whole block, you turn into a block, it'd be loaded with cars from 7th to 6th, and there'd be a red light at 6th Avenue. And you could sound the siren, the air horn all you want. The guy in front of you has no place to go. And the guy up at 6th Avenue waiting for the light, he can't even hear you, back a block. He's not going to go through a red light because you're a block away behind him. So, responding is an issue, and everybody understands, So you don't get too excited about going fast there. The sprinkler system, standpipes, duct work, there's issues. It's another fire department, but it's all learning, man. You're filing everything away. And like I say, a year later, I covered around, and a year or so later, sometime in 88, I take Engine 1 by Penn Station as a captain. And fortunately, Division 3 is in there. And I'm going to work with Dunn and Joe Hosepian, Angelo DiCaprio, and Steve DeRosa were the deputies. I think there was another deputy. I can't remember his name. But these guys are super, super sharp students. And if I haven't prefaced it already, any house you're in with a chief, if you're a fireman or a lieutenant captain studying, if you can get the chief in the kitchen, at coffee time, I mean, that's library 101. Any kind of fire you could bang against these guys, and it's just wonderful. So I had some really, really sharp people. And I also worked with, I got a shout out to Bob Cantillo in the 8th Battalion. Ted Rolfing in the 9th, Jim Hanley in the 7th, and Steve Hessian in the 10th. Other guys also, but these guys stand out, and they would really spend the time with you and give you whatever you needed.
Yeah, Chief, when I was in the 14th, I remember having coffee with my brother, and I used to teach him so much stuff, man. He learned so much from me at that time.
He needed it too. He needs it. It's a good thing you gave him.
Good thing you were there.
Yeah.
Good thing I was there.
Yeah.
Yes,
So,
dickhead.
Yeah.
Good one, Pete.
Hey.
One of our first two, we had Empire State Building for whatever, and I missed the 5th alarm, and there I was off on a mutual. And Penn Station was right down the block. Now, Penn Station, we've all been in Penn Station. You've been down on the Long Island Railroad. How many tracks are there? Like 17
Oh
tracks.
my God! Yeah.
They all have third rails, but they all have catenaries. And Amtrak comes in there with the catenaries. You got to be careful with what you do under certain conditions. I remember there was a train one night, and at the time I worked there was a big homeless problem in Midtown. There was a lot of homeless people, and they needed places to sleep at night. And one of them decided he would climb up on top of one of those Amtrak electrified trains.
Yeah, bad idea.
And he met the catenary. It wasn't a good
nice.
idea. Also, another.
I like watching guys get hit by that. Actually.
Yeah.
Stiff as a
The
board.
Long Island waiting room. You know where the Long Island waiting room is? By the ticket counter, and into the right is a very big waiting room. So we go there one night for odorous smoke, and we're in that waiting room, and we're looking around, and we try to figure out what's burning, whatever. And we didn't have thermal cameras at the time, so it was like catch as catch can. We were looking at the levels below, sending guys down. I forgot how we found it. When you lift up the ceiling panels in that waiting room, there's a giant space, and there's steel trusses there that have to be 8-10 feet high, giant trusses. And there's we somehow lifted up the ceiling panel, and a homeless guy was living up there, and he had a bed with newspapers and things like that. And,
I love it.
He didn't know about smoke detectors for his abode there.
Sleeping arrangements.
And his sleeping arrangements were substandard. And he had newspapers all over the place. I guess he read himself to sleep at night.
Nice.
And he was a smoker. So
Oh,
the newspapers were on fire in the ceiling, and
That's
it was
awesome.
It was a strange situation, but interesting. If you ever want to learn about a different fire department, Midtown or Lower Manhattan, the laws come into play, the building code, FP directives, I don't know what they're called now. They're called something else, laws for the city of New York. If you're an officer and you did BI, that's the place to learn. You were in them every day. It was a real great learning experience. If you were a student, it forced you to learn. And it was really,
yeah. Louis
really
wouldn't
good.
know anything. Louis wouldn't know anything about that because he never did BI. So
Yeah. I got a story to tell you that I can't avoid. You could cut me off for the rest of them. I'm covering at some point in the 3rd division. And I might have been working overtime, or it might have been a covering situation. I'm a captain. And I think I was working in 12 truck. This is a beautiful story. So we go for a phone alarm to 8th Avenue and 19th or 20th Street in the middle of the day. And it's fire on the 3rd floor, whatever, in a 6-story H. And I get there, and we get off the rig, nothing showing. We go in the lobby, and a man meets us in the lobby, and he says, fireman, it's my apartment. He says, look, I had a fight with my wife, and I was hard on her, and he lets me know that he tuned her up a little bit, and she's lighting fires in the apartment, and he's telling us. So I said, there's a fire in the apartment, right? So it's like on the 3rd floor. So we're leaving the lobby, and we're going to walk up the stairs. And as we're leaving the lobby, he says, hey, guys, watch out. She's got a knife. So I said, oh, this puts a new spin on things.
Information we could use.
As I'm going up, I'm saying, well, how are we going to handle this? At the time, I don't believe there was any bulletin for EDPs or handling things like that. And it was like, wing it. Now we have a bulletin, I think, on handling EDPs. But on the other hand, what were my options? I could call the police and not go anywhere near the place and they might or might not come, for 10 minutes. He's telling me there's a fire in the apartment, so I have a concern for her life, the development of the fire, the people above, and I'm thinking I gotta do something now. So it's just us. The engine was behind us, and I think they were stretching a line. So we get up on the third floor, and I'm looking at the lay of the land. I have my interior team with me, and I go down the hallway, and the apartment in question is at the end of the hall, facing me, and the hallway walls are on both sides. And I'm looking at the door as I approach, and there's an odor of smoke, and I see a little smoke coming around the door or under the door. So I'm saying to myself, there is a fire. The woman's in the apartment, and she might have a knife, and she might, be tuned up, and she might not be thinking clearly. I'll knock on the door. She might think it's, her spouse again, and she might do something irrational. So I can't take a chance, but I got to do something about the fire situation. It's her life also, we're trying to protect. So I'm thinking quickly, what am I going to do? So I tell the irons man, put down your axe, take your Halligan, everybody put your collars up and your gloves on, you're all suited up. And I put him 10 feet outside the apartment against the wall, standing sideways with the Halligan tool up like this, like in The Wizard of Oz, the Tin Man, when they first find them, he's standing there like this. And I say to him, hold it up like this. I'm going to knock on the door. And I'm going to step back. If she comes running out with that knife, if I get stabbed, you get charges. You understand? Whatever happens, if she's got the knife and she's coming, you make sure that I don't get stabbed. So he's standing there with the Halligan tool up, and the can man's back, and he's got the can just in case. And
This is great.
I knock on the door and I take 3 steps back, and the door opens, and the woman is standing there, and she's got the 1,000-yard stare. Okay, she also has 2 black eyes, and I'm surveying the situation, but she's not aggressive or anything. And I see there's an orange glow to her right, and the place is full of smoke. So I tip my hat to her, and I said, "Fire department, ma'am, you seem to have a problem in your apartment. Would you mind if we come in?" And she don't say a word, and I give it a once over, and I see she's got a 12-inch butcher knife in the stabbing position down at her side. So I say, we got to do something about this before we come in to see the fire. So I said, with the fire department, would you mind putting that knife down before we come in the apartment? And so nobody gets hurt. And fortunately, she complied, and she stepped out, and she had lit the closet on fire, and the closet was going, it wasn't too terrible. But you never can tell in the fire department what you're going to deal with. And it wasn't a situation that it could have been hairy, but it wasn't something I could have let go for too long, because she could have died in the apartment and by her own hand, and that wouldn't have been too good.
You never know what's going to show up in the door, right, Roof? You might get a girl who burns a breast on an iron. I don't know.
Oh, forget it.
Yeah. So around 1988, I had been going to fire tech for a long time, for a lieutenant, maybe 5 years. And now I'm starting, I studied for captain or whatever, and now I'm a captain. And there's not a chief's test for a couple of years. And I had been going to fire tech, and I just got an idea. What would it be like to teach fire tech? I'm a pretty good student. So I got in touch with Matty Murtaugh. It was his school. And he somehow knew my name from the practice tests. I did really good on the practice tests that they gave. And he called me for an interview, and he teamed me up. He said, sure, we'll hire you. And he teamed me up with a lieutenant from 48 Engine. I can't think of his name right now. And we worked on a lesson plan, and you work on a lesson plan for like 5 weeks. And there came the day that I was going to teach 3 classes in 1 week. He was going to teach 4, or vice versa. And I never taught before, and I never had any public speaking experience. So I go up to Blauvelt, New York, I think it is. They have a class there, a veterans place up there. And I walk in, and I'm gonna talk in front of like 250 guys, and not only talk before 250 guys. When you teach fire tech, guys are crazy about studying. You can't talk off the top of your head. You
Yeah, you
can't
can't
say
make a
one thing
mistake.
pretty
It's all
much that
legit.
is
Yeah.
in the books. Because if you say the wrong thing, somebody's going
wrong
to jump out
word,
of their
right.
chair. They're studying, and they'll go for your throat. That's the
No
way
doubt.
I kind of found it. It's
No doubt.
you got to be careful what you say. So it's got to be, you got to be kind of careful. So I was a little nervous the first class, talking, but I was reading, what I had written and given them the questions that I had made up with my partner, and along the way I got comfortable doing class after class, and you get comfortable and you start talking about the reasons why, and you explain things a little better, and once in a while I throw in one of my codes and stuff to help them study, and I did fire tech for 3 years, and it was all over the place. It was a lot of work, but it was rewarding, and if you talk before public groups, this is a real good way to 250 guys at a time. It was, and you had to be careful. It was a real good way to learn how to do public speaking.
Or be thrown to the lions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What else?
So we'll push to 93. You finally get promoted to BC, right?
Yeah. 1993, I get promoted to battalion chief. In there somewhere interspersed, I was studying. And by the way, all these years I'm studying, I'm at my desk upstairs. My wife cut me free for years and years and years when I was at the desk. And my daughters, I have 3 daughters, and they're wonderful. And at the time, they're growing up. And as I'm studying, you develop study skills, and you learn how to make codes to remember all that the crap in the books, that has a long list of things like 13 points of size up and all that stuff. Well, when I went into battalion chief's test, I had 126 codes memorized.
Oh, the
And,
acronyms. Yeah.
Yeah, acronyms. And I had them all written down on 3x5 cards. And I remember a couple of my daughters studying in high school. They were going to Catholic school, and they came to me a couple of times, and they needed a way to remember a list of things. And I taught all of them how to make codes, and they aced their tests. They aced their tests, and it was great. It's a study skill. I mean, you can't remember 13 the points of size up and stuff off the top of your head. You got to have a way to do it. So anyhow.
Hey,
So
Chief, what was the one? Harry hits a home run far away. What was that? What was
Deputy
that for?
Tony hits a full home run far away.
What was that? What was that for?
She is a tall cow. Cole was wealth. Those are all.
Cole was wealth, right?
Cole was wealth, right?
Deputy Tony was the life-saving rule.
Yeah,
right.
Things for the life. Reasons you take it out of service.
Take it out of service, right?
Yeah. Hey,
come on. He had 199 more of them, for crying out loud.
You had to have it. And the funny thing is, even on the lieutenant's test, I would come to a question and they would ask it, and I knew I had my code. I pushed the test aside. I would write my code down. I would bring the test back, look at the question, look at my code.
Pick the code. 1, 2, 3.
And look, if you're a student, come on, you got to do what you got to do. So anyhow, 1993, I get promoted to battalion chief. I'm in Midtown Manhattan. And I didn't want to go to Staten Island. I live in Long Island. So I had worked in Brooklyn. So I had a lot of fun in the Bronx. So I asked to go back to the Bronx. And I'm assigned up there to Division 7. Excuse me. And you cover all over the place. I did a lot of one-night stands, all over the city when they don't need you in the 7th Division. And I'm all over, and I'm learning. And I'm covering for a year and a half. And comes around May of 1995, and there's a solicitation on a department order that any battalion chief who would like to try out to be a safety chief or would be interested in that, to call the chief of safety and go for an interview. So Pete Hayden, I think, was the chief of safety at the time. And I'm saying, hey, this is a good buff opportunity, a good learning opportunity. It's a citywide unit. You're going to go to everything interesting happening in the city, whether it's a fire or a hazmat or any number of things that that safety goes to. And I thought it would be a good opportunity to learn. So I went for an interview, and he says, where'd you work and what's your experience? And the next thing I know, Memorial Day weekend of 1995, there were two safeties at the time, one on Bradford Street in East New York, and they covered the south end of the city, and one on Randall's Island, they covered the northern half of the city. So they put me on Randall's Island, and Larry Stack, I think, was a battalion commander. I can't think of the other guys. Larry Hatton was there, knowledgeable guys, experienced guys, and they're teaching me different things, and they're telling me what safety does. And once in a while, we get a run. You only go on multiple alarms or when there was a major accident, stuff like that. So I'm going to ride for 30 days, and I'm going to, learn, and then I'll be out on my own. So I ride for the 30 days. That takes me sort of to the end of June. And then I'm kind of on my own. And I'm out at Randall's Island. And that summer of 95, it was quiet, man. There were no multiples, and it was hot. And I'm sitting out there, and days are going by. And there were times I said to myself, hey, I'm not even going to 1026s here. I'm not even doing food on the stove. Maybe I made a mistake, So I was questioning, whether I did the right thing. So now safety's a great unit. When it comes time for them to do their act, they know what to do, and they do a very important job within the fire department. So anyhow, I got through the summer, and I was working on a day tour in Brooklyn at on Bradford Street, and Huey Hagan was on duty in Randall's Island, and there's a fire in Queens off Northern Boulevard in an H, and it's on the top floor, and a fireman gets into trouble, and he loses his life. And I respond, I get a call to respond, and the whole team comes in when a fireman loses his life, and that's preliminary to the investigation that safety does. And that investigation, we worked on it for a long time, and it got very interesting. That's one where they did a reenactment of the fire because they couldn't figure certain things out. We actually brought everybody in a couple of weeks after the fire who was working that day, and we commandeered their units, and we had them respond to the scene and do the things that they did at the actual fire. And we followed them around with stopwatches, and they did a reenactment. In addition to that, I found out that we didn't know how the fireman got to the position that he did on the top floor. And we actually cut the roof beams thinking that he might have been on the roof and fallen through the cockloft into this room. And we sent the roof beams to the ATF, the federal government, and we said, examine that we're all charred. But if he had fallen through and the beams are like 12 inches apart or 16 inches apart, there might have been scrape marks from his mask. We wanted to know if those beams showed anything at all. Anyhow, it wasn't my investigation. I worked on it for a while, but then some other guys, that really had it, took over. And that investigation went on, and it was completed in I don't know how many months. I'm working in Brooklyn on a bitter cold night in January of 1996, and there's a third alarm in Williamsburg in a factory. And we go there. It was bitter cold, and we were there a couple of hours. And I go back to Bradford Street, frozen, and dinner is 2 hours late. It's on the table. And they had eaten already, and we were changing our clothes and getting kind of, back together again. And there's a second alarm in Rockaway, and I hear it, and the wind is fierce this night. So the second alarm comes in Rockaway, and we're still getting changed, but we were kind of in service, but not in service. We didn't really go out of service, but we're taking a few minutes to change and whatever. So it took us 5 minutes to get out the door, and we respond down to Rockaway. Now, if you know where Bradford Street is, it's by Pennsylvania Avenue and Atlantic Avenue in East New York. We start from there, and now we're responding on a second alarm. So now companies were at this fire for some period of time, and were fighting with it, and then the chief transmitted a second alarm. So they were there fighting this fire for some period of time. And now I get the call on the second alarm, and I respond, And I go down Atlantic to Cross Bay, whatever, go all the way down 5 miles down to Rockaway. How long does it take? I make a left turn. I go to Beach 40th Street, which is 2 miles down that way. And we pull in. It's a fire in a 26-story project. And it's a third floor fire. And roaring fire is coming out the third floor windows on one side. It's coming out about 20 feet outside these windows. And I said to the aide, there's no water on this fire. And this has to be going most of a half an hour. And there's no water on this fire. So as it turns out, a fireman perished at the fire. And we started a big investigation. And wind-driven, one of the worst wind conditions you ever saw. The windows that failed, it was a corner apartment. 2 of the windows faced the bay. And later on, we were out in the street, and you couldn't stand up. The wind would blow you off your feet. So that wind was going into the windows that faced the bay. And when the companies came down the hallway, the truck opened the door. The windows were out already. The truck went into the apartment, and it took a minute for the wind to pick up the fire and reverse it. The truck company was running for their lives down the hall in blackness. They ran into a dead end, and they were trapped there for a while. And it was 3 a.m. They were banging on doors, and nobody would open the doors. At 3 a.m. in the project area, when somebody's banging on your door, vociferously, you don't open that door, So they were trapped there for a while. Anyhow, they found the stairway, but they were missing a man. And I remember something, the engine came up the stairs, and they tried hooking up on the fire floor, but 30 feet down the hallway was what's called an auxiliary hose station. Are we on the level with that? Did you ever see a standpipe outlet that's in a little cubby on the wall?
Yeah.
That's the standpipe, and you may hook up to that if necessary. But nowadays, we make it a point not to hook up on the fire floor for obvious reasons. But anyhow, they were hooking up down the hallway from the fire apartment. And when we did the interviews afterward, I interviewed the control man who was hooking up the line from the engine company, the first line. And I asked them about the conditions in the hallway. And they were up there just after the truck. And the engine the control man said, I just put the butt on, and the hallway went from a light haze to 1,000 degrees in 1 second. And that was, the door was open and the truck was fleeing. And that's how the conditions changed. It got to the point in 1 second, he says, I had to drop the line and run for my life. That's the conditions in the hallway. Anyhow,
wow,
that was my investigation because I was working on that investigation from January to about 3-4 months later. And then Howard Safer was a police background. He was the fire commissioner, and he felt that it should be a big committee or something like that. He took it away from safety and he gave it to a committee of firefighters, but of all ranks. And they wound up doing the finishing out the investigation. Safety is, I stayed in safety from that. That was 1996. I was there in 95. I stayed till 2002, right after the World Trade Center. During that time, I worked on every fatal investigation, every serious injury investigation, numerous apparatus accident investigations. It got really interesting after that, and there was work for everybody. And the team of guys were great, and they were trained. They sent us to a lot of schools, and we learned a lot of things. And
well, Chief, I want to interrupt you for a moment. And just quickly, I want to go over one photo here that you sent us, in particular, when you said something about safety with regards to the apparatus accidents. Look at this picture right here. Tell me what the story is here with this rig that's tipped over.
Okay, all right. When you get a rig, any rig, an engine or a truck, a tower ladder or a rear mount, it comes with instructions. And when you set the rig up, you have to follow the instructions scrupulously. Okay, and I'm not pointing fingers at all. There's no identification on this truck. It's an excellent truck company. They were trying to do a really good job, an efficient job. The double H type building in the back had a cocktail fire that was going down the block. And you see right over the truck, there's a throat area. I was in 42 engine. I was on the top floor with a line, a hand line, and we were making some entry into the cockloft. This truck was set up here, and they wanted to get a bite on the throat area with the reach of the boom, so that they could possibly use the gun into the stang into the cockloft. Well, the sidewalk was very wide. The truck actually is sitting on the sidewalk here. So they drove the truck up on the sidewalk, but when they dropped the two tormentors down, the outside one was on the ground. The inboard tormentor rested on this wall on the right side. This wall, the stability of this wall was not questioned. On the other side of this wall is a lawn. So on the other side of the wall, that wall's not going anywhere. When the truck was upright and the tormentor was on that wall, and they put the boom up into the throat area at a 90-degree angle, and there were three guys in the bucket, the physics of it took over, and the stress exerted, the torsional stress by the boom being out on that angle, wanted to turn the truck, was trying to turn the truck over. Had the tormentor been on the ground, the way it was designed, it wouldn't have had the opportunity to go that way. We found out the hard way that night, well-intentioned, very well-intentioned, that if the tormentor's on the wall and the boom is out, there's enough torsional stress to flip the truck over instantly and take the boom and crash it to the ground as if it was detached from the truck. It crashed to the ground. Three guys were in the bucket, and I'm in the fifth floor looking at this. There was a whooshing sound and a crash. And I'm looking at the truck on its side. 42 engine was feeding it. The line broke and was flailing in the street. The guys in the boom were screaming, and the truck is on its side. And I'm looking at it, and it doesn't add up. It's so real. And I gave a mayday. Everybody was given maydays. The guys were removed, and there were some broken bones, but nobody was terribly injured. And my chauffeur was a kind of a nervous guy. And I went to him after the fire, and I said, "Gary, did you see what happened?" He said, "Yeah." And I said, "How much pressure were you giving them?" And he said, he hesitated for a second. He said, "It wasn't me. It wasn't." Anyhow, me. I just included this because there's limitations to what we do. There's a passage in Brannigan, who wrote Building Construction for the Fire Service. There's a passage in Brannigan's books, and it says gravity will always act. It acts in the day, it acts at night, and it's there all the time trying to pull everything to the ground. So I remember that passage, gravity will always act. And that's the genesis. The genesis.
That was a common thing, though, right, Chief? Though the guys used to short jack stuff all the time, right? With the stick and.
Well, like I say, if you don't do it right, anything can happen. I investigated another tower ladder situation where they had a job. It wasn't this company; it was a Harlem company, and there were people hanging out the windows, and the chauffeur just put the tormentors down on the fire side, thinking he'll never, put the boom on the other side. I wouldn't worry, but there were cars on the other side, whatever. And later in the fire, the chauffeur who knew this was off the pedestal, and it became necessary to raise the bucket and take a woman out of a window or something. And somebody else who didn't set the truck up got on the pedestal. And he swung the boom around, and the OV was in the bucket or whatever. And they took the woman out, and he swung the boom to the unsupported side. And they got a big shock, the unsupported side is the unsupported side. So you got to be careful. We try to do a good job. None of this is, intentional. It's all accidents. But safety.
I don't think the rigs can do that anymore, right? The rigs can't do that. They have to be down now, right? There's like alarms and stuff. Like I'm pretty sure.
Maybe so. I'm out 10 years.
I'm pretty sure.
There probably is. A lot of things have changed, but
Chief, one more quick question from the chat before we get into the next phase here.
yeah.
Because we are getting a little short on time. Did you work with the Rescue 2111 truck accident in '95 or the St. George Hotel in August '95?
St. George Hotel, Larry Stack had it, and he told me it was the biggest fire he'd ever seen in 30 years in the fire department. And he's a 175 guy, so I respected what he said. I didn't have that fire. I remember 111 and rescue, and I didn't have that one. I had plenty of apparatus accidents, and I will encourage chauffeurs, if they're listening, that we drive rigs that weigh 20 tons. And we go through red lights or we negotiate red lights. Be careful. You don't want to hit a car or another apparatus in an intersection, which is where we have most of our problems. We have lights and sirens and air horns, and sometimes we stretch the limits of safety coming up against the red light, and that's where we usually have our problems. You have to be able to stop the rig in case somebody is coming across. People, civilians driving cars today, have those boombox radios in their car. They're not going to hear you. And at a blind corner, they're not going to see us. You, as the chauffeur, have to control the intersection, be able to stop the rig just in case a car is coming across. You don't want to be the guy that hits a car, because with the weight of the rig, we could do, tremendous damage and hurt or worse to civilians. And if we do that, you hit a car and people are hurt. That's it. You're stopped there. You're not going to the fire, even if it's a job. You're pretty much stopped there. So I would encourage you to think about what you're doing and drive really carefully and safely when you're coming and negotiating the lanes at red lights. It's within our power to do it, and it'll save you a lot of aggravation. In addition, if we have a fatal accident like that, there's investigations by safety, but there's other agencies that get involved in fatal accidents, and they do a very objective investigation also, and they're to deal with. So I would just tell you, it's good advice to drive carefully, be able to control your rig. And by the way, 20-ton rig doesn't stop on a dime. Even if you stand on the air brake, you're going to go through the intersection if you're going 30 miles an hour. By the time it stops, you're on the other side, and that doesn't bode well for a car coming across. So be careful as far as driving. Did I miss your question? I would just like to say notable fires. Vandalia Avenue, if anybody familiar with Vandalia Avenue, there are certain fires that were absolute landmark fires, okay, that I saw in safety that I said when I investigated it, we know very little about fire. And I'll say this now, after some of the stuff I saw in safety, we put fires out. There's no fires out there right now burning. We put them all out eventually. But we go to fires and we learn from fires, and there's tons of books and everything else. We write new stuff all the time. But make no mistake, fire can kick our butts when it wants to. When the wind is right, or when certain other things get dropped or go wrong at a fire, fire retains the ability to humble us. And it does less and less these days because we know a lot about fire. But I'll give you Vandalia Avenue. The wind was blowing in only at 17 miles an hour. It was a big picture window, fireproof building. The fire was on the 10th floor. The truck got up before the engine. The engine was coming up and had a standpipe hookup. The truck got to the fire apartment door, and on the way, there was smoke in the hall. They forced an off apartment, like for an area of refuge. The guy in that apartment, the civilian was in there. He opened his windows. Okay, so the truck walked down the hallway and found the fire apartment and didn't know the conditions, but they knew there was a fire in the apartment. They opened the fire apartment door, And within seconds, the window was out. The picture window had failed. The wind was blowing in. And it was just like the living room was on fire. The off rooms weren't even on fire. But there was enough furniture to make a fire condition that was really bad. The conditions changed. The officer and the 2 young firemen were fully geared up with their face pieces, with their bunker gear. They were in a totally fireproof hallway. At the end of the hallway, about 40 feet down, was the elevator lobby. Going in there was a closed fireproof door. All they had to do was run down this hallway and go through that door. There came a point after, very shortly after they opened the fire department door, that conditions reversed. The wind picked up the fire, and it was time to go. It was time to go fast. They were running down the hallway away from this fire, and I'm amazed still, in a fireproof hallway, 3 young, fully geared guys wearing their masks perished in that hallway because whatever was sweeping over them. And there was nothing in the hallway to burn. It was just gases coming out and fire coming out of that apartment. And all they had to do was run about 40 feet and go through that door, and they'd have been saved. And they were unable to do it. And we were unable to get into that hallway when we mounted an attack. Eventually, with 2 lines operating in unison, it took companies something like 10 minutes to go 20 feet down that hallway and push down that hallway and push the fire back into that apartment. That's one of the fires that gives me great respect for the power of fire and the power of wind, playing games with fire. I would also like to cite crazy things that happened at Watt Street, which is just before I got to safety. Another weird fire. The Father's Day fire in Astoria was a really noteworthy fire, and Black Sunday. And I had a lot to do with the investigations of Father's Day and Black Sunday, and weird stuff. In 40 years, I never presided over a fire with a backdraft. I was just lucky. We're lucky we don't run into backdrafts. And we also know some of the signs and symptoms of, what precedes a backdraft. And we try to be careful not to butt heads with a backdraft, but they happen occasionally. And ironically, about 2 years ago, if you want to see what a backdraft looks like in New York City, just Google Woodside backdraft, and you'll see a row of stores and a really.
We watch that every day, Chief, on
You
Cocktails
watch it.
and Cocktails.
That's a beauty. That's a beauty. But
Oh my God!
are you familiar with Father's Day?
Yeah, Chief, actually, Kev was blown up in the Father's Day fire.
Was he?
Is he awake? I don't even know what he's doing
Kev.
over there.
Kev, you're muted.
You're a mess.
Sorry.
What's going on?
Yes,
man?
we were first due there, Chief.
Yeah. The squad was first due there. Were you
Yeah.
working? Were you working?
Yes. Yep.
Oh, okay. I won't go too much into it, but one of my lessons learned here for anybody out there, especially chief officers, is you're going to run into a fire sometime where we don't have access to the fire area. And these guys did pretty much everything right. The fire, I won't describe the whole thing, but the fire was in a cellar. It was a cellar fire in a hardware store. And we stretched it 2.5 to the into the store, and we held the cellar stairs. And it's a good thing we held the cellar stairs, because it was no man's land on that stairs. The cellar fire was burning. And as it turns out, we tried to go in on the level of the fire in the backyard, and we were delayed, forcing that door. And the fire was burning, and it's the cellar of a hardware store, so you can imagine the fire load. And the lesson learned I get out of that fire, which turned out to be a disaster for us, is if you have a fire and you don't have access to the fire, find a way to put water into that fire area. I don't care what damage you do. I don't care if you put a Bresnan distributor to the first floor. And especially these days, if you can see the fire, knock out the windows and hit it from the outside, which was poison to us until about 2 years ago. And now I saw a video recently which was produced by the FDNY. That's our policy now. They bought into that, and that's what we do. If you got a fire and you could hit it, a brownstone, and it's on the parlor floor and the windows are out, if you could knock it down from the outside and then you take your line in and you just crawl into steam and knock the rest down, rather than insisting on the hallway and crawling into like 2 rooms of fire and maybe getting somebody burned, why not do it? Are we worried about water damage versus fireman safety? If you can hit it from the outside and it's any kind of delay involved, hit it from the outside, knock it down. We had a fire where a fireman lost his life. It was a cellar fire in a 20 by 40 private dwelling. And they went down there into the cellar, down a rickety wooden stair. How much does a fireman weigh with his bunker gear, right?
Well, he was a big guy
pounds,
too.
right? Big guy. He was a big guy. We went down there and the fire was in like a little closet, a work area or something. And we were down there. They weren't putting the fire out or something. The masks were going down and they decided that they would get out for whatever reason. And the officer ran out of air and went unconscious. And why am I telling you this story? He was down there and the place got hairy and we couldn't go back down with a line. And it was bad. And we sent guys down to get him. And we had trouble getting the line down there. But it came to the point where there was fire visible in the exterior windows, cellar windows. We could have knocked the whole thing down. And my point is, if that is necessary and it's advantageous, don't hesitate, man. That's probably a good way to think. Don't worry about water damage. If you're putting water on a fully involved basement, everything down there is gone. Just put water, knock it down. So that's a new way of thinking. And I think
I was going to say, Chief, I think it's more of a cultural thing, or I wouldn't want to put a line in the window, if I saw that at a job or if I saw somebody doing that. And I'm sure, like you say now, if you could stick a line in the basement in a small window or something like that, just to take the anger out of it a little bit, absolutely, I understand that part. But it's a cultural thing too.
Yeah, I'm not saying put the whole fire out. Just knock it down. Just knock down the heavy fire, and then the engine takes their 1 3/4 and goes down the stairs. Why open the cellar door?
I understand that part.
And the fire's at the top of the stairs. You know what I mean?
I got you.
Fight your way down.
No, I got you. I understand.
So
let's move over to DC because we got to get to the old school tip. So February 2002, you get promoted to DC and you're assigned to Division 1. I'm
assigned to Division 1 and I do a little covering, and then I'm UFO in the 14th Division. Back up. The Father's Day fire was just before 9/11, June of 01. So 2 battalion chiefs from safety were working on the Father's Day fire. And at the Navy Yard was their office. And the Navy Yard is right across the river from the World Trade Center. The World Trade Center gets hit, and the 2 battalion chiefs that are working on it take some gear, go across the river, get involved in saving people and watching out for firefighters. And they paid a heavy price. One of the battalion chiefs perished, and the other battalion chief was injured and retired after that. So basically, the 2 of them were working on that Father's Day fire, the hardware store fire, which was Father's Day right before this, 4 months before 9/11. So the investigation wasn't getting done. And now 8 months later, 10 months later, it's 2002. And I realize I'm getting promoted to deputy and nobody's working on that investigation. So I approached Chief Cassano, I think he was operations at the time. And I said, please let me work on the Father's Day fire. Just put me in an office and let me bang my head against it for a while. So we got some permission. He said fine, and I worked on it until the summer, about 4 months until the summer of 02. And then they needed deputies in the field, and they pulled me out. And I had it pretty much all written and all done. And like I say, that was an amazing fire. Amazing. I won't go into it, but just amazing things happened there to beat us up. I wound up in Division 14, and it's a wonderful, interesting place to work. a great mix of buildings. And I'm working with Chief McNally and Chief Kubler was
Never
my
heard of
mutual partner. You heard of him?
No,
Kubler.
never heard of him.
Yeah. And what else? Let's see. Rocco Rinaldi, Mark Cucurullo,
I love Rocco.
McSweeney,
Rocco!
and eventually, and Mark Ferran has been the commander there for a long time. And
Chief Turner was
you
there,
know,
right?
like everything, we share fire stories when I come into work or they come into work, and I've had a job or they've had a job, and we handle a lot of things. And I came to realize nobody can be doing more fire duty than deputies in the New York Fire Department, and more varied fire duty. And these guys have been 30 years. You got to be 30 years to be a deputy. These guys are absolute fire experts. There's nobody in the United States that has more fire duty and more experience. So what I'm trying to say is it's just an honor. I mean, to pick their brains and learn and learn and learn. And it was an honor to work there and work with those guys. And I saw a lot and I learned a lot. And deputy is an old man's job. And I was an old man when I got there. And I was an old man when I retired. And I had a great time. And it was a great ride. You got any more pictures you want me to narrate? I think there was.
Yeah, throw some up there, Pete.
Well, let's see. Let's just go. Let's stay in the same zone. Hold on. I'm just trying to find something that was off the. Well, I'll tell you. There was this one that you mentioned with your friend Ronnie.
Yeah, that's Ronnie Caratu, and he's retired now. I know him 50 years.
Ronnie Cockatoo.
Oh,
and,
Petey.
if he's watching, hey Ronnie, how you doing? And we're still buddies, and I call him once in a while, and he calls me. And a great guy and a absolute wonderful firefighter.
Is he still on the job or is he done?
No, he
No, he's
retired
done.
about 5 years ago.
Oh, Roof, why don't we get him on the job, bro? We
Yeah.
I've
maybe
been
find
trying.
his,
We're working.
maybe we
I'm
can
working
find
on
his
it.
bike.
All right, and then one more photo because we're going to get into the old school tip and wrap it up. Tell us what was going on here.
Okay, it was a Saturday or Sunday morning on a nice day, and this is in Flushing, 37th Avenue, and the battalion goes to a phone alarm, and he transmits a second alarm, and I said, oh, that's unusual. You know, we always get jobs on the weekend, but a second almost on arrival, and it's a row of stores, about 10 on the right side going down, and it's about 4 stores to the left of where I'm standing, and I get there, and the trick here is right behind these stores is a 6-story H that's 300 feet long. And the face exposure foreside faces right over these stores. And it has windows for 6 floors, apartment windows. And I get there and it's not through the roof yet, but I'm sizing up the situation. And different roofmen are telling me they're seeing fire under every skylight from the initial store, which is way down on the right side. I think it was the last store down on the right, about 8 stores down to the right from where we are here. And there's fire all the way to the stores over on this side, on the left side. And so I realized, you know, this is spreading fast. And I transmitted a third alarm, and we establish our sectors, and we put all our protocols into operation. And early on, I realized that if the fire starts coming through the roof, it's only about 15 feet away from that H. And if it gets to that H, you know, this is going to be a borough call, as it was in the old days. So, you know, I took some strong measures to protect the H. And I was thinking ahead, which is something I'd like to tell battalion chiefs and deputy chiefs. Look at your fire and always think ahead. And I used to ask myself this question: if I don't get a handle on this pretty quick, where's this going to be 10 minutes from now? And where's it going to be 15 minutes from now? And I realized if it came through the roof to any degree and we weren't able to knock it down, it would be in that H on various floors. So I did some, you know, fancy dancing out in the street. and I put a lot of forces in that H-type building. And I called another satellite. I had a manifold set up in the street in front of that H-type. I could not take the chance it was going to that H. But anyhow, we
Coogs,
got.
I think we were at that fire.
I was
What's
at
that?
this fire with this is the one where Fat Daddy Ray steamrolled
Oh, is that
me.
the one where he ran you over?
He ran me over in the barber shop because the roof blew in and the fire came out the door. He's in the chat. He probably doesn't remember. He steamrolled me, but then the chief put us in the H-type. I think the cheese man was working for this, and we were popping doors and checking in the H-type.
All you would need,
Yes,
for the
that's
fire
Louis.
to go through the roof and the radiant heat to get the curtains on fire in any of those apartments.
Yeah.
Then the curtains burning fall on the bed, and then you're off to the races. I must have had 30 apartments facing on these taxpayers, and I couldn't take any chances. So yeah, listen, I call the cavalry. They can always come. If they don't work, we could pack it up.
Yeah,
But
we
if
got a
I
lot
need
of
them-
practice forcing doors that day. That's for sure.
Hey, and stretching lines. If I
Yeah.
need them, it's too late to call them after, So that was a real interesting job.
Yeah, that was a Saturday, like late morning, early afternoon. Saturday.
Late morning, like 11 o'clock. And
Yep.
it was rocking and rolling from the start. It was.
Oh yeah,
a
37. I think it was 37th Avenue.
Yeah, 37th Avenue. Yeah. And 81st Street, something like that. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Malkin's parking lot it is. They named it. Yeah, afterward. But we did the best we could, and I congratulated the guys for 2 minor injuries or 3 minor injuries when it was all over, and it went to like a 5th alarm. So we had quite a few troops there.
Jeez.
And working. Any more
Well,
pictures?
Well, hold on a sec.
Yeah, throw one more up, and then we'll do the old school.
I just was prepping for the FRC thing, so hold on. Oh no. Okay. I guess I'll just have to pull them.
So the
We're
picture
really out of time, guys. But let me just.
picture. I won't elaborate anymore on it. You want me to do my tip?
No,
Yes.
hold on a sec. Hold on. I
Yeah,
got the
okay.
pictures back up. Hold on a sec, guys. I you know what? Actually, here I'll
All right,
just
go to the old school tip then.
there's
bastard.
listen, guys. There's an order to this show, and the order for right now is getting the. Here it is. First Responders Center for Excellent Health and Safety tip of the day. Before we go to your old school tip, Chief, we got to go to the health and safety tip of the day. The First Responders Center for Excellence is a not-for-profit organization dedicated to protecting the lives and livelihoods of first responders. Their education and research initiatives aim to bring greater awareness and understanding to the challenges of the health, safety, and well-being of firefighters, EMS personnel, and other first responders. The goal is to reduce line-of-duty injuries and deaths, as well as occupational illnesses, and they're an affiliate of the National Fallen Firefighter Foundation. Today's old school health and safety tip of the day is when walking out a hose. Hold on a second here. Let me just mute something. When walking out a hose when walking out hose after a fire, firefighters often place the hose over their shoulder when draining water. Avoid letting the hose contact your shoulder so you have minimum contamination spread. I never thought of that one, actually. That's a pretty good one, no? What do you think, Chief?
I guess you could say that the hose sits in the runoff, and God knows what's in the runoff. It's all the burnt products from the fire. So there's any number of chemicals in that water. And the further you could stay from those chemicals, the better. And of course, if it's on your bunker gear or on your gloves to any degree at all, it dries on there and it stays for a long time, at least until the next laundering. And what happens with firemen is you take your bunker clothes and you rub your hand on it. And the next thing you know, you're rubbing your face and you're sneezing. And so eventually you're ingesting whatever was on that hose. It's a
There
good
you go.
idea to keep
There you
your
go.
clothes clean.
So there you go, guys. It's not only an old school health and safety tip of the day from FRC, but from Chief Malkin. Now, guys, if you want to get some more tips like this. And if you want to make sure that you guys stay healthy and live a long life, go to the firstrespondercenter.org or take your phone out, open up your camera, point it at the squiggly QR code on the screen here, and it will take you there automatically. All right. Now, are we all ready? I guess
I'm ready.
I'm ready. Here's you go now. Here's his time.
All right, here we go. And it's time for the old school tip of the day. All right, Chief, take it away.
Okay, the tip of the day is, after studying an awful lot of fires that hurt us, there's three common factors that come into play, and they repeat themselves over and over again at most of the fires where we get into trouble. Just remember this: water, wind, and communications. Any of them that break down, if you're standing in the street and you're wearing a white helmet, perk your ears up, because those things, if left at all unattended or unaddressed, are the things that develop very quickly and make our lives miserable. Wind, water, and communications. Lack of water, having it in the right place, or any number of other reasons. The wind, we all know about. We all know about it. And communications, that's why the deputy has his mouthpiece up to his ear. I've seen commanders in the street miss Maydays because we weren't listening, or we were busy talking to other firefighters or other necessary communications. Communications are important, and complete communications, and they can help us or hurt us, and they're very important. Those three things, if I could impress on you guys anything, be attuned to those three things. Thank you.
Nice. Excellent.
Excellent.
Chief.
Thank you, Chief. Your stories,
Lou, you're
excellent
muted.
stories.
Lou, you're
Thanks. Thanks. I thought I'd have
Lou,
to
you're
laugh,
muted. Lou,
I
you're
skipped a
muted.
couple.
Lou, you're muted on the mic.
I said the chief could probably go 2 hours without even blinking. 2 more hours.
Oh,
without
my
blinking.
God.
Pete can't, because he's getting tired and cranky. So
I'm
Pete
not
can't
tired
go
and
on
cranky.
the
I just
Okay.
I get
I
cranky when my co-hosts throw me under the bus.
Throw you on the what bus? I asked you for
we'll
a
talk
picture.
about
You
it.
got all cranky.
Yeah. We'll talk about it after. We'll
Yeah.
talk about it
I
after.
hope so. All right, Chief.
boy.
Thanks for coming on.
Hey,
Excellent stories, really.
Thank you, fellas, for asking me, and it was a pleasure and an honor to be on. Thanks.
Great
It
stories.
was an honor
Great.
to have you.
Yep. Great career also. You're a gentleman.
Yeah,
and
I
you have
enjoyed it.
A
I'll
wealth of
just tell you
knowledge,
one more-
Chief.
I met Casano, Chief Casano, when I was on light duty, right before I was forced out, or I retired. I actually retired on my birthday, and he said, "How you doing?" I said, "I'm retiring. They're boarding me, and I feel bad because I don't want to leave the job." And he said, "You got no regrets. You've had a storied career. That's, you got a lot to be thankful for, and a lot of good things you worked and everything else." And he was absolutely right. I have no regrets at all. I enjoyed the ride for 39 years.
Yep. You did a great job, Chief. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Okay.
All right, guys. So we're gonna wrap it up. Monday, is it Monday? No, it's Monday. We have no show. Thursdays.
No,
we have
Mondays.
a...
No. Mondays we have a Cockloft and cocktails.
Oh,
And
correct.
it's a nice long episode to keep everybody at bay and relaxed while Louis gone. Thursday of next week, we are also going to have a little old school tips I'm putting together for the show. So we will have content next week, Thursday and Monday
And
at
then
8
the
o'clock.
following Monday and Thursday, I think Roofy's still gone. I don't know. I don't have my calendar in front of me. I don't know what we have. So that's it. Roofy, enjoy your trip. Go kill some stuff. Get me some meat, and we'll see you back soon. All right, Petey.
I'm just looking at the calendar real quick if I have anything on there. No, we don't have anything on there as of no.
I have something. I didn't put it on the calendar yet. I'll talk to you about it.
All right. Yeah. All right. You'll take a look because I have some stuff marked, but we'll make sure you guys have content. Don't worry. And okay, real quick, guys, we're gonna burn through this audio. You guys know the deal already. We're an audio podcast as well as a video. You can find us on all the players. Go ahead and do that. YouTube.com/Getting Salty Experience. If you're listening to this, hit that like, subscribe, and share button all around. It's free. So there's no reason not to. When you guys subscribe, that really supports us the most. So get us out there. Okay. Instagram guys at Salty Dog Inc. Mr. Refranos putting up those awesome photos. GettinSaltyApparel.com for all the coolest, freshest firefighter apparel and accessories in the game. Thank you to everybody in the super chat who hooked us up tonight. Thank you to everyone in the super thanks. Facebook guys, Getting Salty fans page, our 50,000 plus members on the Facebook. So head on over there, follow the rules, read them when you sign up, and follow them, and you won't get booted. There you go. Getting Salty ads at gmail.com. If you guys want to advertise with the show, hit me up. I'll shoot you the spiel. Getting Salty experience for general questions for the show. Coops podcast at gmail.com for any of the cocklofts and cocktails stuff. That's the content that you guys want to show us. New requests for you guys. If you're shooting us content, if it has music that's copyrighted, that's okay. We can take that out. But if it's like a film or something and it's copyrighted, no go anymore. That we're getting hit pretty hard by YouTube with that. So that was our episode 13 got banged out. So no copyrighted material, preferably. Helmet cam footage, photos of rigs, photos of stuff. You guys know the deal by now. All right.
Yep. Shows your company pride. Gonna put some pride back in that company, Roofy. Shows your company pride. Send us your firehouses, your rigs, your kitchen tables. Send it all. Send us your guys, and we'll get it out there. It's a big community, so let's share. And that's it. That's all I got.
All right.
Roofy, enjoy. Safe trip.
Yeah, safe trip, Roof. Take it easy.
Don't wear no camo out there. Just a little tip. I don't know if you know that.
Roof, you gonna rock the new boots you got? Whatever they are.
I am.
Oh, crispy. Yeah. Tell me how they work. I'm so curious.
Oh, they're awesome already. I've been walking them.
Did you break them in?
I'm a little bit.
Nice.
All right, send pics. We'll put some pics up there if you're out in the middle of nowhere. Freezing your ass off. Good job. All right, Chief. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Look forward
guys.
to speaking to you again.
A pleasure always talking to you. Thanks.
All right, guys.
Thank you, Chief.
Petey, Roof,
all right, boys.
Nation. Stay low and go.
All right, everybody. We'll see you at the big one.
Take
Hold
care,
on,
everybody.
Chief. Don't go anywhere, Chief.
See you soon, everybody.